Hello everybody. Welcome back on the Culture Lovers channel. We have a special this week dedicated to Saint James, specifically Saint James the Greater. The Spaniards call him Santiago. It is a saint that is very important to Spain, and about 300,000 pilgrims make the journey to Santiago de Compostela every year. The relics of St. James are supposedly to be found in a silver chest within the crypt of the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela in Galicia. His followers Athanasius and Theodore are buried in the same crypt. James was one of the 12 disciples of Jesus during his lifetime. He took it upon himself to go to the Iberian Peninsula to spread the Christian belief after the crucifixion of Jesus. His route back to the Holy Land routed him through Caesar Augusta, a city that is called Zaragoza these days. When he was there, the Virgin Mary appeared to him. This was in 36 AD. She instructed him to build a church. He had to do this on the place where the pillar reappeared that was used in Jerusalem to tie Jesus to before he was crucified. At this place, at the bank of the river Ebro, he built a church that has become the Cathedral of Nuestra Señora del Pilar. When James arrived back in the Holy Land, his life took a bad turn. He incurred the wrath of the Jews, and Herod Agrippa, the king of Judea at that time, killed James. This happened in 44 AD. After that, and according to the legend, Athanasius and Theodore, two of James' disciples, decided to bring James' body back to Spain. On their journey, while they were sailing on the ocean near Buzas, they saw that a wedding was taking place on the beach. The party guests were playing a game in which javelins were thrown while riding horseback. At a certain moment the groom made a mistake and ended up with his horse in the ocean. The groom drowned. It was then that a miracle took place, for the groom was retrieved and brought back to life by Santiago, covered in scallop shells. This is why the scallop shell has been a symbol of the St. James pilgrimage ever since. Athanasius and Theodore arrived later with St. James' body in Ira Flavia. This is a little further north than where the wedding party was. It was an area governed by Queen Lupa at the time, so they asked her for help finding a final resting place for James' body. Queen Lupa was not very eager to help them, but she also didn't want to appear unhelpful. She gave them 2 oxen and a dragon to accompany them, and sent them to Mount Ilocino where King Dugio lived. It was a plan that could not succeed, since the oxen were wild, the dragon could not be trusted, and the king wasn't very fond of strangers. But nothing bad happened. The dragon was scared away by the Christian symbols, the oxen became completely docile, and Theodore and Athanasius never reached King Dugio, as a bridge they had to cross was damaged. When they returned to Queen Lupa, she was so impressed that she converted to Christianity and provided a place to bury James' body. It took about 700 years for the story about St. James to continue. In his commentaries on the Book of Revelation, Beatus of Libana, a monk from Cantabria in northern Spain, wrote about St. James, or better Santiago. He confirmed that it's Santiago who converted the Spanish to Christianity. The book was published in 776. This is quite interesting since the Iberian Peninsula, with some exceptions in the north, was mostly ruled by the Moors at that time. About 60 years later, and with the help of the hermit Pelayo, the bishop of Iria Flava, Teodomiro discovered the tomb of Santiago. They found the grave following an unusual composition of stars. This made that we refer to this place as Santiago de Compostela. They relayed the news to Asturias king Alfonso II. The king was so enthusiastic that he became the first pilgrim. In honor of Santiago, he built a chapel on top of his grave. The route Alfonso followed in 814 is now known as the Camino Primitivo. This is the most beautiful way to get to Santiago de Compostela. It goes from Oviedo to Lugo, and then on to Santiago. The mythical Battle of Clavijo is also a noteworthy event from those times. This battle has supposedly taken place around 840 AD, or as we know now, it never has. But let us ignore that for the sake of the story. The Christian kingdoms of the north of Spain began their centuries-long struggle to retake the country from the Moors during this period. In the Battle of Clavijo, it was St. James on a white horse who led the Christians to their first great victory. Since then, Santiago is called Santiago Matamoros, that is the Moor killer. This victory led to the Christians in the north regaining their pride. As a result, they were not required anymore to pay tribute to the Emir of Córdoba and deliver to him 100 virgins every year. Anyway, so far about the legends surrounding Santiago. I find it quite interesting to learn more and more about saints and their stories. It is clear that nobody knows if any of these stories are true, but it is clear that they have had great impact over the centuries. All very interesting. I am sure now that the owners of this channel are motivated to make their pilgrimage too. It will be a bit different, since they will travel by camper and probably want to see more about the places mentioned in this video. Okay, this brings me to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Comments and subscription are also appreciated. See you next week.